Good evening. My name is Sue Risky and I'm a member of Cheyenne's League of Women Voters. We're so pleased to see so many interested voters here tonight. This is going to be a very special evening. But first of all, I want to talk a little bit about who the League of Women Voters is. We are a local organization and we are nonpartisan and we do not support any political candidates. Our mission is to sponsor forums or informational sessions such as these so that candidates have an opportunity to talk about the issues that they think are important. And so this is what we're doing tonight. I do have to say this is our 16th forum for the general election, and our star moderator is Margaret Herman, who's seated in the back with her feet up tonight. As a member of Laramie County School District Number 1 Board of Trustees, she is not going to participate, but she is back there to coach us as we go through the evening. Tonight, again, it's going to be very special. Instead of having a league member ask our candidate questions, we've assembled a panel of student moderators from the 4 local high schools. Because the League's mission has always been to promote activities that make democracy work, we are especially pleased to include these future voters tonight. They will be asking the questions suggested in classroom discussions held across our district in the last 2 or 3 weeks. Candidates will also have an opportunity to answer questions the League has composed, and you have that information on your desk. Those questions will be answered in writing, and those will be found online on the Cheyenne's website, and you can Google that. But that's not the main event tonight. It's our student moderators. First of all, we want to thank John Little, our superintendent of schools, for allowing us to use this room tonight. It's absolutely perfect, and of course candidates and incumbents get to sit where the real work of the or where some of the work of the district is done, not all of the work, but a lot of it. We also want to thank Mark Quinlivan, Social Studies Coordinator for Laramie County School District Number 1, who partnered with the League to organize tonight's event. He contacted teachers from East, Central, and South, and then we also contacted the teacher from Triumph. And again, these teachers have asked these students to come tonight and to participate. Terry Brantz, the media teacher at East High School, also sent 2 of her students to participate and to film this forum. And I believe when we have the recording available, we will try to post it on YouTube. Is that your understanding, students? Okay, so that is terrific. We thank Terry certainly for taking time to help us with that. We also asked journalism students to participate tonight. Did we get anyone? They sort of had a last minute notice. Okay, but there were several students who work on the district student newspapers who I think we'll try to include next time. So what we're trying to do, of course, is to encourage our students to become interested in the democratic process. One student said, "I'm not sure why I'm here. I'm neither a voter nor a woman." And I said, well, in the future, I'm real sure you're going to be at least one. So we're glad to have you here. Before I go any further, I'd like to ask our superintendent, John Little, to make a couple of comments.
Thank you, Sue. Now, this is an extremely important election, and I think it's wonderful we have student moderators and you know, the election that you're going forward to assume roles that really affect our future through these young people. So I think it's wonderful, the League of Women Voters, to go this direction, have students moderate this. We have such important work to do, and it's really critical. So I want to thank all of you for running, and I would like to invite your involvement, whether you win or not. We've got lots of places for community people, and we're always seeking assistance in that. And I've had an opportunity to meet all of you, and I think you really bring something to the school district. So thank you so much for your willingness to do that. And I know it's about what you're going to say tonight, so we'll turn it back over to Sue. Thank you.
Thanks, John. I would also like to take just a minute now to introduce one of our League members. This is Pat Hayes. The League is also involved in writing documents or flyers about certain issues that are relevant to this particular election. And Pat is going to show you what those are. And again, we always rely on Marguerite to do the writing for us, but since she's resting back there, we'll have Pat explain them.
Thank you and good evening. I'm glad to be here. And especially I'd like to welcome the future voters, because voting is one of the most important jobs you will ever have. And remember, no vote is ever wasted. You should always exercise your democratic right to vote. With that said, I want to talk about a couple of issues that the League of Women Voters has prepared paperwork for you so that will help you understand things better. There's a handout on the back table that talks about judicial retention. Wyoming follows the Missouri Plan for Judicial Selection, which means there's a commission that identifies qualified candidates. The commission submits names to the governor, and the governor then appoints a judge. However, it's up to the voters to vote whether or not to retain that judge. The first general election following that judge's selection, he or she stands for retention. You'll find information about the different judges whose names will be on the ballot, and we would encourage you to pick up a flyer and go to our website and review that information before you go to the ballot box. Voting for judges is important. One of the other documents we have is the pro-con on Wyoming Constitutional Amendment A. This is an important amendment that it's long and complicated, so I'm going to read kind of a shortened version of it. In any event, the idea is that a vote for the measure, Amendment A, would allow the legislature to invest additional state funds in equities, meaning in the stock market. A little more risky, but a lot more opportunity to make money on your money as it's resting. A vote against the measure would mean that the legislature is prevented from including these other state funds in the list of the equities, or the funds that are currently available to be invested in equities. Again, it's complicated, and there's a lot of information both for it and against it, because again, the League is a nonpartisan organization. We want you to have information that will help you make your own decision when you get to the ballot box. Last but not least, there's a form called the Wyoming Voter Registration Form. If you would like to pick one of these up and fill it out before you go to register to vote, it will make sure that you have all of the information you need when you get to the voter registration place. If you forget anything, you may have to go back and pick it up. So fill out a form that'll give you the information that you need to make sure that you can get registered to vote. And Marguerite asked me to mention one other thing. The League is working on a flyer that will be on the League of Women Voters website that will present pros and cons on the uses of the proposed 1/4 penny of the 7th penny tax. So that will be on the website. I'm not quite sure when, but Marguerite will know because she's writing it. So without any further ado, I think we'll move on. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd also like to recognize our board president, Jim Landon. If you wave your arm, Jim. He's back in the same room he was in last night for a long meeting. And let's see, is there anyone else who would like to introduce themselves tonight? I see a principal from South High School out there, which is pretty cool, and I see other people too. So thanks for coming to see these students. I think this is going to be fun. All right, first of all, to our candidates. We cannot thank you enough for being here and for choosing to run to make democracy work in this country. Candidates have the roughest job, and really, if you think about it, without candidates, we wouldn't have a vote. There would be no reason to vote. We know you put in a lot of time and a lot of effort, and I know you face some interesting challenges, and you have to be called out at different times. And if you win, of course, then your life is over because you spent all your time doing the board's work. But I just want you to know how much we thank you for this, and I think that this is just real positive for our community. So our candidates tonight are Tim Boland, who's an incumbent. This is not Nate Green, in case you wanted to know. He's about 30 or 40 years younger. This is Nate's surrogate, a student, former student named Mike Morris, and he's been prepped to answer the questions. Cameron Karajanis, Scott Noble, Todd Reynolds, and Lynn Schuyler Hewler, who is also an incumbent. So again, thank you for being there. I'm going to take just a second. I'd like to ask you two camera people to introduce yourselves.
I'm Gordon Schultz,
From,
East High.
can you yell?
I'm Anna Larson from East High.
Thank you, Anna. All right, now for our student moderators. Would you guys stand up and turn around and introduce yourselves? We'll start on this end with you.
I'm Jackson Mugg. I'm from East High.
I'm Michael Davison. I'm from South High School.
I'm Drew Himmel. I'm from Triumph High School. And I'm Sawyer Rubin. I'm from Central.
Okay, again, these students have a list of questions. Yeah, thank you. Give them a big hand. They're going to be the ones who make this interesting tonight. We do have one conflict. Michael is going to return to South tonight to participate in his concert, so he will be leaving. So when you see that happen, it's not that he's given up on any of us. He just has important things to do. We also had a variety of other students lined up for tonight, but they are at things like speech and debate practice or We the People practice, and to have students who show up to this is pretty cool. And we just had another elected official walk in, Deborah Lee, who is the Laramie County Clerk. Would you wave your hand, Deborah? Thank you for being here. All right, I'm going to quickly review the timing, and then I think Michael's going to redo it again. You'll have 2 minutes for an introduction. Every question you may spend 1.5 minutes on. And again, Pat will give you the high sign when you have 15 minutes left and then stop. And she has a real noisy beeper. If you don't quite finish, I think she'll probably let you finish your sentence. But if you then want another 15 seconds after everyone has responded to the question, you may take another 15 seconds. And then your summary statement can be 2 minutes also. So, are there any questions? Okay, and remember we will start with Mr. Bolin, and then we'll go to Mr. Morris, and then on down the line, so that not each person doesn't have to be the first one answering the questions. All right, here we go. Thanks.
Okay, so why are you running for board, and what are your goals? What expertise or passion do you have that will make the board better? We'll start with Mr. Bolin.
I am Mr. Bolin, and 4 years ago I earned the trust of the voters of Laramie County, and I've tried to do a very good job in the last 4 years of making sure that I have held up that trust that they placed in me. I'm running for the board now, as I did before, to make sure that all of our students receive a quality education in a safe environment. Now, by quality education, I mean I want to make sure that no matter which school you go to in our district, you're getting the same kind of education there that you would in any others. There should be fairness for everybody in the district. And by safety, I want to make sure that everybody feels safe in their school. We don't want anybody. The only way you can learn is if you're feeling really, really safe. So we want to make sure that we have safe and good learning environments. I also want to make sure that we have a tremendous amount of data in our data warehouse. We want to make sure we're using that to make sure we make good decisions for our district. Thank you.
All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Mike Morris. I'm not Nate Breen. I'm speaking on his behalf tonight. Nate, unfortunately, is unable to attend. He has a prior commitment related to his position on the Board of Trustees, the State Board of Education, I should say, sorry. However, I'm more than happy to speak on his behalf. I'm a former student of Nate's. The reason that Nate is running is because the viability and success of a democratic republic is really, it's dependent on the civic virtue and service and the common good. And Nate really believes that he has a duty and an obligation to give back to the community that has given so much to his family, and his particular expertise happens to be in education and educational policy. He's a leader, and I can vouch for this over and over. He's served and continues to serve in various educational leadership roles and in this district and in the state. And secondly, related to his leadership skills, Nate comprehends that serving on the board requires the ability to balance being a trustee with the responsibility of being a delegate. He will serve all of his stakeholders and not just a select group of folks. And as far as his goals, fostering a culture of student achievement is really front and center. And so how do we accomplish this? Number one, with vision, a clear vision with high expectation for teaching and learning. Number 2, accountability. Number 3, policy development. Number 4, community leadership through community engagement. And finally, number 5, sustaining a viable and healthy board superintendent relationship. And thank you to everyone for your time tonight.
My name is Cameron Karajanis, and I am running for Laramie County School District Number 1 Board of Trustee as a voice not only to our students in the elementary schools, our Head Start programs, but junior high, all the way down to our admin, to our clerical, to our maintenance, as well as the citizens and the city and the county that rely on us to provide a quality education to our youth. Some of my priorities are to work with our administration to fix our communication gaps that I see on a daily basis as I work with kids on a community basis Monday through Friday and see the communication gaps that parents come to me and voice their opinion, as well as teachers and school district employees that look to me as their voice in this upcoming election. I want to work on our relationships also with our city and our county, as I feel that our city and our county and the school district need to work hand in hand as to provide a safe and successful environment for our students, as well as our faculty and other employees that work with in our school district. I want to look for ways to help our educators be successful, provide those tools, trainings, be there for them, be present in the classrooms, playgrounds, stuff like that. Make sure that kids, teachers, and clerical employees, maintenance, have that voice where they can turn to me, call me, email me, or see me out and about, visit their schools, so they can come to me with an issue, and then I can relay that through the chain of command and fix those communication issues. It's also very neat that we need to provide our educators with that individual success to where they pass it down to our students, and make sure that we encourage and motivate for success and give timely feedback to not only educators but students alike. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Scott Noble. I am the Director of Athletics at Laramie County Community College. I was formerly the Director of Athletics at South High School. I was very fortunate to be involved in opening that institution. When I moved here to Cheyenne from the state of Kansas, I came from a very, very poor educational state in terms of monies and financial support. Coming to Wyoming, it really opened my eyes, the different resources that we have in this great state. The thing in moving to Cheyenne and coming to Cheyenne, my children were going to go to school in the South. And I was going to live in the South, and I was going to be a voice for the South. And today, my third child is a senior at South High School. I have had 2 that have graduated from South High School, and I want to be a voice for the South Triad within our school district. That is one reason. The other reason, I want to support our administrative team. We have a brand new strategic plan, and the only way that that is going to be successful is to have full support. And I want to do that and help our school district with its new strategic plan. Because I'm telling you right now, I've seen a lot of them, and this one is really very good. The next thing that I want to do is, of course, increase our graduation rates. It's a high priority for us. But for me, I want to look at not the 78%, but I want to look at the 22%. What is with the 22%? What can we do with resources to help that 22% graduate on time? Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Todd Reynolds. Thank you, by the way, for coming tonight. Thank you for hosting this event. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I am a graduate of Cheyenne Schools. I spent my entire K-12 career here. I got my first teaching job here in Cheyenne. My parents spent their entire careers in this district teaching, and my daughter currently goes to school here. I believe in this district a great deal, and the reason I'm running is because I want to give back to the district that I believe has given so much to me. It's enabled me to be where I am now, and I appreciate that. So The expertise I bring to it, I'm in my 19th year of education. I have taught in elementary, secondary, I'm now teaching college. I'm a teacher educator at UW, and I train teachers now to go out in the field and become teachers. I'm also an educational researcher. I write, publish, and present nationally on literacy education. And I want to bring that voice to the school board, that voice of a teacher educator and an educational researcher. There are three things in particular that I really want to look at. I do want to look at reducing district mandated testing, looking for those tests that are highly and positively correlated and making sure they have direct impact on the classroom. I firmly believe in the arts education, making sure we have quality arts education, quality physical education, and quality vocational and technical education for our schools. We need to educate the entire child and give everyone the opportunity to get those classes that they really love. And finally, I want to empower teachers to differentiate for the specific students that they have in front of them. They're the ones who know their students the best. They're the ones who know what their students need, the strengths that their students bring to the classroom. And I want to make sure that we give those teachers the chance and opportunity to give those students the specific instruction that they deserve. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Lynn Story-Heiler, and I am currently a trustee. And 4 years ago, I developed a little mantra for my life that says, do something every day that scares you, and that's from Eleanor Roosevelt. And what that means to me personally is do things that are out of my comfort zone, things that challenge myself, things that make me stretch beyond my limits. And for me, one of those things was giving back to my community by running for the Laramie County School District #1 board. Now, I come from a long line of service to the community. My great-grandfather was William Story, who Story Gym is named after, and he served on this board for 25 years. And I'm very proud of that legacy that he left me. My grandfather was a county assessor. My father was a city councilman. I really feel that in that line of past family members, it's my duty too to give back to the community. So here I am. I truly believe in this district. I too was educated in this district and went to East High School, although my children went to Central High School, so I have a balance between different triads. But I'm running because my first 4 years on the board was like drinking from a fire hydrant. Just a lot of information, lots of learning that I had to absorb. And I really feel now that I'm in a good place where I have absorbed a lot of knowledge and information, and I can continue to advocate for students and for teachers and for parents. My priorities are safety. This world is very different than when I went to school. Safety is a concern for our students, and we got to make sure that our buildings are very safe. Overcrowding is another huge issue. We had 125 students that were bumped out of Sunrise Elementary School. Sunrise Saddle. Oh my goodness, now my brain just went to a fog. That's unacceptable. We need to make sure that we're looking at overcrowding in our schools.
Again, the following questions were suggested by Laramie County School District 1 students and teachers. You have 1.5 minutes to answer each one. After every question, every candidate gets a 15-second rebuttal. Have you ever eaten school lunch? If so, what do you think of the taste and quality? What controls food selections? And I will start with Ms. Story.
Very good. Well, this is a perfect question for me. I have eaten school lunch. So one of my missions was that me and another board member, Sandy Shaner, we were going to go to the schools and we were going to eat lunches and we were going to sit with the kids and we were going to talk and we were going to hear from the students. And we did that, and we went to probably 10 different schools, and we sat and we ate lunch. And I can tell you about eating lunch a couple of things. One, I'm very concerned about the waste that is happening with our kids and our lunch program. Our kids are having to eat very quickly, and sometimes that means they don't finish their lunches, and what happens to those lunches is they go in the garbage. We also saw that there was a cute little cup that was a frozen cup that was given to the students, and it didn't have time to thaw out. So by the time the students were eating it, they were eating it like a slushie with their teeth, and they couldn't get to it, and so it got thrown in the garbage. I'm very concerned about that. I have asked the Director of Nutritional Services about how can we involve children more in the planning of our meals? How can we have some focus groups, some test groups that can eat some of this food and give us some feedback on it? We really need to talk to our kids, see what they like, see where we can improve on that. And that's one thing that I will continue to do as a board member. I'll continue to go and have lunch, and I'll continue to advocate that our students be part of the lunch process.
Let's go to the left.
Okay. All right. I unfortunately have not had the opportunity to eat at school lunch yet. I am teaching during that time, so I haven't had a chance. But my wife has been to the Thanksgiving meal that they have at the elementary school. My parents are actually going with my daughter this year because I can't make it. When I look at the food services, speed is an issue. My daughter eats very, very slowly, and so she doesn't get a chance to eat even the meal that she brings from home. So timing, I think, is an issue for the services, for the lunch service. Other than that, we are a little bit limited by budget. We're limited by facilities. We're limited by the amount of people that we have working, and we need to work within those constraints to find the most diverse food choice we have, but also the most nutritional food choice we have. I do want to work on decreasing sodium and sugar intake as much as possible, but I would also like to make sure that our students get as nutritional a meal as they can. We know that the more nutrition they get, the better meal they get, the better they're going to not only behave, but also perform academically. So it's a matter of working within our means to make sure we can provide the best lunch we can.
I guess I'm proud to say I've eaten it for 5 years, and I love salt and sugar. I've been in the lunchroom every day. I know exactly what it is. The salad bar is outstanding. It is extremely popular. We do bring outside foods in, such as pizza, which is very popular. And then there are meals that are provided, and they range everything from chicken fried steaks to burritos to, what's your favorite at South?
I don't have a favorite.
What? See? Because everything's great.
I don't like
right?
soul food.
It is, for me, in the lunches that I've eaten, it's very good. Is there some waste? Absolutely, there is some waste. But the students take, it's not served, it's taken, so they ask for it. If they want a banana, then they can get a banana. It's not like the plate is loaded up and then off they go and they don't eat half of it. So to focus on lunches, I'm a fan, and I may be in the minority, but I'm a fan. I think the time length is fine as well. So thank you.
I unfortunately have not been able to enjoy a high school lunch or anything like that for a while since I attended Central way back when. I'm not that old, but I do get the glory of going and eating lunch with some of my members at the Boys and Girls Club, and to me their time limit is not valuable to them to get the nutritional needs that they have, as well as some of the stuff that they are served. Like Ms. Hyler stated, the frozen cups that they serve, I didn't even have time to eat it before the kids had to go back to class or go to recess. Whether it be we need to shorten recess to where they get that adequate. But nowadays with the convenience of McDonald's, Burger King, stuff like that for our high school students, it's so easy to go and get those options. We need to look at how we can include our students in meal prepping and getting their more valuable input on what they would like nutritional wise and everything. We do a great job with the USDA program in our school district, and I think we need to continue to rely on that and see what other options we have to provide our students with valuable snacks as well as food to keep them full throughout the day, because they are more active, they need that time, and they need all the nutrition that they can get to be successful in the classroom and be attentive and continue until dinner time.
Yeah, thanks for your question, Michael. Yeah, Nate is someone who I believe was in the district for 36 years as a teacher, certainly ate his his fair share of school lunches, and he was also a student of public schools and ate school lunches then. And so he knows that there's kind of a timeless complaint, from students that school lunches aren't tasty. And certainly I was a student and I, had the same sentiments at times. But certainly Nate believes that there are some parameters that, make creating these meal plans difficult. And he believes that the school lunch program, through the kitchens of our food program, really does its best to create healthy and tasty lunches for the students in this district. And he really wanted me to emphasize that he believes that Mrs. Shannon Thomas Ensley, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, that she's really done an outstanding job in developing these school lunch options, and he gives her credit for making things better than they were. So certainly he thinks that there have been some improvements that have been made, and really that we've made a lot of efforts towards making these meals better for our students.
I also had the opportunity to teach for 34 years in our district, so I ate a lot of school lunches over those years. I remember back when I first started in the district, I was at Johnson Junior High School, and Johnson Junior High School made the food there, and at that time it was wonderful, and they kind of gave a little special attention to the staff food at that point, so I remember that being very wonderful food. But then I remember at McCormick for several years there we had an a la carte bar where the kids could go and buy cookies, or they could buy like nachos or French fries covered in cheese. So we've come a long way with our nutrition. We've made big strides towards making sure that over the last 5 or 6 years that the nutrition that we're providing is actually there. And in the school lunch program, if you want the price for the school lunch, the reduced price, you have to take several different options. And one of the things that I've been a little bit surprised about is how many of the fruits and vegetables get thrown away. And I've been at all the different levels, at the grade school, at the junior high, and the high school. And for some reason, even though they have to take either a fruit or a vegetable, a lot of those end up in the trash can. And I don't think it has to do with the amount of time. There's plenty of time for them to eat it. Just a matter of they haven't had the experience eating those. And so one of the things we do right now in our district that is really good is we give our elementary students a chance to try out some vegetables and fruits that may not have had a chance to do that for free. And this is a federal program that, again, Mrs. Thompson Emsley tried, and it gives those students a chance to try things they may not have had before. So.
Okay, so in light of research that later times help teenagers perform better in school, what changes would you suggest for Laramie County School District number 1 start times? We'll start with Mr. Morris.
All right. Yeah, thanks again for the question, Jackson. Again, I think Nate's stance on this is that this has been covered, I think, by the Board of Trustees and within the district a number of times in the past, and really we've been unable to find a consensus on this issue. And so he really believes that until there is definitive scientific and empirical evidence that we should really remain where we are with the schedule, considering the logistics of busing and activity schedules. It makes it extremely difficult, I think, to do a whole lot with altering that start time.
Would you like to, which way do you want to go?
Either way.
You choose.
We'll go to the left.
Okay.
So I'll say with research and stuff, I mean, I've researched this several times because a lot of my members come up to me and ask if I can get them later start time, especially my teens that come to our program. They like to sleep in. Of course, we're doing after school sports and everything like that. I mean, there's multiple research options, the pros and cons of it. I mean, later start times show significant improvements in school performance. Late start times reduce tardiness, truancy, and dropout rates. Of course, research has shown also starting school later gave students time to eat a more healthy breakfast. It is said that breakfast is one of the more healthy parts of the meal that you can get in the day because of our busy lives and everything. But also the cons, some of the cons to that, it becomes difficult to schedule extracurricular activities after school, sports, times are altered, whether practices have to be moved in the mornings, which then now we have to get up early. Parents have to change their schedules around if the kids are riding the buses, especially rural schools. kids that live out in the county, parents have to adjust their schedules to go along that, as well as some of the after-school programs that a lot of people try to push to have continued success for our students. Those will have to get altered, and then now we have to look at how are we going to correlate getting kids the nutrition of dinner and that kind of stuff when they get home. Thank you.
Jackson, is this a student question or faculty question? Because I would probably venture to say that the faculty would be interested in a later start date or start time during the day. Seriously, it's very difficult logistically. I can tell you that. There's certainly some data, and Kevin's covered some of that in terms of tardiness. Those things seem to go away, which we're all in favor of. For me, if I were elected, I would certainly like to hear it again, and just take a look at all the different facets that make up some of the difficulties, and see if we can't come to some type of solution. Thanks.
Thank you for your question. Sleep study and sleep science is relatively new with adolescents about the last 20 or 30 years, but the evidence is very clear actually at this point. The students, especially in adolescents, operate on a slightly different schedule a few hours later. We know that sleep disruption leads to reduced concentration, performance, attention, creativity, communication, reduced empathy. It increases motor skills mistakes, stimulant use, sedative use, anxiety, depression, anger. It increases your risk for metabolic abnormalities, diabetes, weight gain, reduced immunity, and unintended sleep. It is a serious problem we need to address. And yeah, there are logistical issues that go into it, but 60% of public high schools in the country currently start after 8 o'clock. And this is a trend that's going on. In a review of research that was just done in 2014, they looked at a number of districts across the country who have actually done this. And one of the most common things is to flip the schedule with elementary. But the big thing they also say is that one size doesn't fit all. So every school district needs to go into all the stakeholders, needs to look at what's happening, what's best for that particular district, and look at the possibilities that are there. And it is worth looking at the possibilities. And one of the other things the research points out, though, is that it is task-related. So the cognitive performance is task-related, which means that fluency and automatic skills happening earlier in the day can be very positive, whereas content-based and knowledge-based skills can happen later in the day. So even if we can't flip the schedule, we can at least look at scheduling and find ways to schedule classes that will better fit students' needs.
So, as a parent of 3 kids, I get this. Dr. Dennis Pope from Stanford University said, the teenage body is a nocturnal one, which means our teenagers are staying up at night and they're then needing to sleep in the mornings. I get it. My kids were all that way too. I'd be, why aren't you going to sleep? I can't, Mom. I can't shut my brain off. So I think we all agree that the research is really saying that this is true. So why are we not looking at this? And so for me, that's the bigger question. So what do we do about this? I think that it's not just a one-time conversation we have and say, okay, we tried that conversation, couldn't make it work with bus schedules and after-school activities. I think it's a conversation that we have on an ongoing basis. I think it's a conversation that as new research comes aboard, as new schools try new things. I'm a real out-of-the-box thinking person. And I think that we need to look at creatively to other districts. What are they doing? What is working? And I think it's a conversation we have to have on a yearly basis, on a very regular basis. And as a trustee, I will continue to push that we look at this issue. Thank you.
I was attending board meetings for 12 years before I actually got elected to the board 4 years ago. And this was an issue that was brought by parents probably 7 or 8 years ago. And at that time, it was investigated by the district, making sure that all the stakeholders district had their input into it. And it was decided at that time that it was probably best to leave the schedule the way it was. And there were probably a couple of reasons for that at that time. And one of them was that if you move the start time for secondary later, they're the ones that are involved with more activities after school. And we currently have activities, I see the lights on some of our stadiums till 9 or 9:30 at night. So you're going to push those even later in the day. And it's very important that our students actually are involved in activities. Our best students with the best scores are actually the ones that are involved in activities. So we want to rather encourage more participating activities rather than less. And also the other thing is that if you do that, then the Older siblings are not at home to be able to take care of the younger siblings at the end of the school day. So there's a couple of reasons why I think that decision was made not to do that.
Can we get it? We have 15 seconds.
Yes, go ahead.
With the activities and the review of research that I read, they actually found the activities benefited, performance in those activities benefited from athletics to more academic style. So switching the schedule affected and impacted them in very positive ways too across the country in that review.
All right, the next question. Would you support a 4-day school week? And we'll start with Mr. Reynolds.
Quick answer is actually no. I don't like a 4-day school week across the board, across the districts. I have seen it work very, very nicely in a high school. So for example, in Gillette, there's a high school my student teachers have been at. It's an alternative high school. They go to school for 4 days a week for 10 hours a day, and on the 4th day, the students have the opportunity to go in for extra help to make up work, and the teachers do a rotating basis to staff that. And for that particular school in that location, it works brilliantly. As a school-by-school basis, we could look into it, especially in high school. But once we move out of high school and start looking at junior high or elementary, the community impact, I think, would be too great. But especially for elementary schools, that's an extra day that parents would need to cover their child. But in some high schools, it could work. It's worth looking at what the purpose is for it. Is the purpose to make up work? Is the purpose to get extra help? Is the purpose to save money, in which case all the schools need to be completely closed and completely shut down? Is it to save money on transportation costs, on busing costs? We need to look at the purpose behind that question first. But as far as a blanket across the board, no, I wouldn't support it. As far as individual schools possibly coming up with ways to help their specific students, I would be interested in at least entertaining the notion.
Which direction do you want to go?
We'll go to his left.
Oh, this way, okay. You know, this is a very interesting question, and I've thought long about it, and I sometimes vacillate. There's lots of pros and cons. I know it is very successful in some really small rural communities because students then can go into working on their ranches and their farms, or they get to do other activities on those other days. I think that because we're more of a, if you can call us, an urban area in a rural environment, I don't know that it works. For me, there's a lot of cons. It really does hamper a lot of families who, what will they do on that day that they don't have school? What are they going to do about childcare? So it burdens families who are working families. And unfortunately, we have a lot of working families in this district and in this community, and then they would have to find ways to cover that. It impacts athletics as well. If you lengthen the day, so you're going to have to go longer during the day so you can have that day off. Again, after school activities are going to be shortened. For me, there's just too many cons for the size of community that we have. Although I do see some pros to it, but for me, it's a no too.
This time I don't think it would be a good thing for our district. I have seen it work like in District 2, with smaller districts, works well, and part of that is because they have so few kids there that if you're going to have activities, almost every kid has to be involved in activities, so you need a day off to make sure you do that. So it's worked well in small districts. I don't think it worked well in our district. As long as we're talking here about schedule a little bit, I would like to see us, in our junior high schools at least, probably go back from the block system back to the regular 7 or 8 period day. And because the long period of time with our junior high students in the block time, a lot of times doesn't work very well. Now, if you have very good staff to make sure that you're changing activities frequently throughout there, you can make it work. But I think we saw 2 years ago when we went to math every day, we had some rise in our test scores. So I think at least in the math area and some of the other academic areas, having contact with those kids every day would be beneficial.
Yeah. Thanks for your question, Drew. Mr. Breen also does not support a 4-day school week. Even, again, 4-day school weeks do provide some logistical some favorable logistic pathways for activities and activity buses, but really Nate's stance on this is that we really need to guarantee that our students get as much and as consistent day-to-day instruction without long interruptions. Nate's not trying to discourage students from participating in extracurriculars. Certainly study after study has illuminated that activities and activity participation are a huge metric for success later in life. But with that said, we can't allow activities to dictate the education that our children receive, and that needs to be at the forefront. And also, I guess a question was asked just now about starting school later, and a 4-day school week would result in earlier starts each day and longer overall days. And I think Nate also wanted me to emphasize that he does have, real concerns about the workload and loss of real instruction time that the block schedule has created, that Mr. Boland just brought up as well. And so really, he wants to be certain that we're addressing that concern of student fatigue as well.
I feel our district is too large. The school district number 2 does a great job with that model and everything, but our district is way too large. Research has shown nationwide that school districts that have quite a bit of number of students, that it doesn't work on a 4-day work week, because it does cause them to go to school earlier as well as stay later, and it affects, because then you have to worry about if students are going to have, what are they going to do to make up? Do they have to go to Friday school, Saturday school? But if they have to go to Saturday school or Friday school, then they can't do sports, that kind of stuff, so the extracurricular activity gets affected by it too. I will say the block days, I am a fan of the block days, because it provides longer days for the educators to be there, but it also provides that extra planning that they can have for those age groups and whatever grade levels they have that day. And if it's a thing where they're not seeing the kids enough, they're just seeing them longer, well, it needs to come to our educators to make it fun and engaging with our students. That way they're learning and everything, and they don't have to worry about that learning loss or anything like that throughout the week. If we're engaging our students and everything with that. So I am not supportive of that 4-day work school week. We need to stick to the 5-day, and then we can also evaluate the later start times as well as going to school later and everything like that.
I don't know that there's anything else to say other than I agree with my colleagues. It just doesn't fit. It doesn't fit our size of community. It's something that we, believe it or not, are looking at the junior college level, and one of our core initiative plans that we are going through right now in terms of finances and budget reductions. It is one of the different forms that came across to us, and we are going to look into that. However, at the elementary level up through probably the junior high level, I think the negative impact on our community is too great. Thanks.
First off, I'd like to say well done by all of you. We have reached the halfway point, so congratulations on that. Okay, for our next question, seeing as most board members are partial to one triad or one school, probably arising from where they or their children went to school, could you serve on the board with a view to what benefits all students in schools without favoring any one in particular? We'll start with Mr. Carjanis.
Awesome, I love that question. Seeing as I get kids on a daily basis from all 3 triads, I can say that I won't be in a bias. That's also one of my goals as running for a Board of Trustee, to control the bias of decision makings and everything. Being that I see those kids on a daily basis, I can get a glimpse of each triad, from the East Triad to the South Triad to the North Triad, and see what they struggle with. Parents also, when they come pick up their members and everything, I can see what they're struggling from. They voice their concerns, and I will say that there's a huge disconnect between all 3 triads, and it takes Board of Trustees on down from admin to clerical to the educators, as well as to maintenance and everybody else employed by the school district, to fix those communication gaps, as well as making sure that all three triads are working hand in hand. I know we have our rivalries with sports and everything. I did graduate from Central. I did attend Cary Junior High School, and as well as McCormick Junior High School when I went to school. But I also attended Hobbs and Dildine in elementary school. But being as I see kids from all three triads, I know the struggles and the communication gaps and the huge gaps in instructional time that our kids see on a daily basis.
We'll go to his last, so Mr. Noble.
Go Bison. One thing that I noticed in coming here, when the triad boundaries were set, that we did not have representation from all of our triads. And I don't think that's right. I looked at most, and I don't know if anybody else is from the South Triad, but I will tell you that I want to be a voice for those young people, and I think that's important. I can tell you this, that there are needs in the South Triad that other triads don't necessarily have some of those challenges like the South does. And we talked a little bit about resources and trying to assign resources where they're needed. I can tell you this, that resources should not be awarded equally. They should be awarded based on need. And I'm here to help listen and work within that system. I will tell you this, seriously. I am wanting a school district, not a district of schools. Thanks.
So as an educator, as a teacher, my perspective completely changed when I started teaching in schools that were completely different than I attended. It forced me to look at what I was doing as a teacher. It forced me to look at the instruction I was giving. And it actually forced me to look at the students and recognize that they had different strengths and different needs and different funds of knowledge that I wasn't meeting them. So I had to go back and adjust my strategies. It's why I went back to study literacy. It's why I got a doctorate in literacy education. It's because I didn't have the tools to meet those students at their needs. And now I feel like I at least know how to ask the questions to get better at meeting those students. As a board member, that's what I want to argue for, and that's going to be one of my priorities, is to make sure that we are helping the specific students with their specific needs. The students at one triad are different than the students at the other triad, are different than the students in the other triad. Those differences, though, aren't negatives, they're not deficits, they're strengths. They're strengths, they're funds of knowledge, and each student in each one of those triads has a different set of strengths that we need to recognize, that we need to bring into the school, that we need to bring into the classroom. The more we do that, the more we acknowledge their strengths and their specific funds of knowledge, the more we can reach those students early, and the more we can connect with those students all the way through high school. So as a board member, I want to continue to empower those teachers to meet those specific needs, and that's for all students in all triads at all schools.
So, this is a great question that we talked about. And I don't want to steal Tim Boland's thunder, but Tim and I have had quite a few conversations on maybe changing the way school board members are elected. There are ways that we can elect some individuals that would represent each of the triads. And I'll let him talk a little bit more about that. I don't want to steal your thunder. But I will tell you that also, I have made suggestions, and I will, it didn't go anywhere, and as I was thinking about this question, I will push it even harder. One of my thoughts was, when I got on the board, was, you're right, my kids went to Central, I went to East, where are my alliances? We got to get away from that, and how do you form relationships with people as you spend time, you get to know, you build relationships? We need to do that as a board, and what we need to do is, as a board, we need to be divided up amongst the triads. So 3 of us would be in this triad, 3 of us would go to this triad, and 3 of us would go to this triad. And those would be our schools that we would attend their programs, we would attend their little functions, we would go to their PTAs, we would get to know them. And we could rotate that, but we could get to know them. And it would be maybe a different district than what my kids went to, so it would be the South. I think we need to designate us as board members to different areas to get to know those schools, because there's a lot of schools and you can't advocate for them all.
I'm a lifelong resident of Cheyenne, and so when I was growing up here, I had the opportunity to live in several parts of town, so I pretty much love all of Cheyenne, so I like to represent all of Cheyenne. When I first I did spend 30 years teaching at McCormick, which of course is in the Central Triad, and so after I retired, I decided I wanted to substitute. So after that, I got a chance to work at all of the secondary schools, so it gave me a little experience in what was going on in each one of the secondary schools. And then when I got elected to the board, I decided I needed even more knowledge, because I hadn't seen elementaries very much. So I decided to visit every single school in the district, and I went around and did that. And I was doing that for a reason, to make sure that I knew the strengths and the weaknesses and the needs of each one of those schools in the district. And I've continued to attend events throughout the district just so I can stay in touch with what's going on in each one of those places. And also as a member of the Rec Mill Board, I have voted for playground and recreation projects throughout the district, and I'm sure you can see all the wonderful playgrounds that are throughout town. We try to make sure that that's balanced when we assign those projects. And the last thing is, Lynn Story-Hyler alluded to, one thing I've been thinking about since I've been on the board and done a little research into is state law allows that the school board itself can set its policy about how its people are going to be elected. Now, there are a couple of restrictions. At least half or more of the people have to be elected at large. But with our district, then, that would allow that we could have 3 representatives, one from each triad, elected by a triad. And I think our current representation on the board is I'm the only one that doesn't live in the Central Triad. I'm in the East Triad. And even though I do a great job of trying to represent all of the triads, I think if we had one from each one, it would actually be more fair.
Yeah, thanks, Sawyer. Nate, I think, really believes that this question is at the nucleus of what being a trustee constitutes. Really, what being a trustee should entail is a vision of looking at the entire school district and all the stakeholders with due diligence, and understanding that we're talking about our kids and not a particular neighborhood's kids. A delegate responds to immediate constituent concerns, and a trustee has the wisdom to see the full landscape, and we really need to find the balance between the two. And as a retired educator who spent 36 years teaching in the classroom in the school district, Nate's preeminent concern always has been, and as a board member, it will continue to remain encouraging student achievement and classroom engagement for all students. And quite frankly, as someone who took 4 high school classes from Nate, I've seen firsthand the authentic passion and energy that he had for really getting that achievement out of all students and making them passionate about learning. So I think that kind of summarizes where he stands on this.
So would you favor giving students time off for hunting or other activities that take them away from the classroom, like other districts in the state? We'll start with Mr. Noble.
No. We are here for educational purposes. Our buildings are educational. And not that hunting can't be educational, that's not what I'm saying. I think that for the most part, school calendars are reviewed. If it was something that would come to us and it could fit and not disrupt the school session, I would certainly look at it. But as far as favoring for personal activity that some may be interested in and some may not, I don't believe that I can, on the surface, support that.
I think one of our responsibilities as educators is to respect the family values and family traditions of the people who come to our schools. I reserve the right, for example, to take my daughter out for arts events or for sports events, and I want to be able to do that. Some families enjoy hunting, and that's a family tradition that they pass down from generation to generation, especially in this location. I think that's great. I do support the opportunity for them to do that and have it be excused, but there are 2 caveats I put with that. Number one, parents need to absolutely know and understand what it means when they take their kids out of the classroom. It is difficult to make up for a day of high quality instruction. But if the parents know that going into it and are proactive with the teacher before the absence, are proactive with the student while the absence is happening, and are proactive when the student gets back with the teacher again, then the parent can really actually work with the educational situation and help those students so that they can have the family traditions and family values as well as meet the needs of the school. The other part of that, though, is I want to make sure that this isn't an open door to chronic absenteeism, because we know that if students miss 10 to 15 days a year, their academic performance is going to suffer. So if we start getting to the point where they're missing 10 or 15 days, where they're starting to miss a lot of school, that will significantly impact their academic performance, and that becomes an issue. So if parents know and understand what they're doing, know and are very proactive with the teacher, and don't lead to chronic absenteeism, it can be a positive thing for families.
So this great little resource guide that I have, which is a district-wide handbook, here's what it says about family vacations. It says family vacations or hunting trips are not an excused absence. For special circumstances, prior arrangements must be made with and approved by the building principal. You know, we're a military community, and I hear from a lot of military people the struggles that they go through with deployments, and sometimes when you're going to be deployed for a year, sometimes the family needs to go back somewhere else and kind of say goodbye to the family and things like that. We have to be open that every circumstance is unique. We have to understand that there are circumstances that sometimes do dictate that there needs to be an absence for children. I think sometimes families are fearful that there's going to be some big consequence if they try to do this, and I think we need to foster a culture that building principals work with families because there are unique circumstances. I agree, we can't let it to be a chronic absence kind of situation, but I think our principals pretty much know the families, and they need to be able to be given the leeway to work with individual families.
On this issue, I had the opportunity as a staff member, and then again as a board member, to work on policy advisory. And this was probably one of the hottest topics that we had for 2 or 3 years in a row in developing the policy that Ms. Story-Heiler just read. And I believe it allows, I think finally in its final form, it does allow for families to make decisions on hunting or other activities that are important to their families, realizing that it is going to be counted as an unexcused absence, and that if that becomes chronic, you know, that may be reason for further concern with the school and maybe pursuing some other action against those parents. But I think being gone once in a while is probably, especially if it's a valuable thing for the family, it can be good. But you do have to realize that we can't schedule these kinds of breaks for every different kind of activity throughout the school year. We have to do so many days. We're required to do that by law. So again, they have to be unique situations and approved by the school. And one of the things that you have to realize is when you're gone from the classroom, we have very creative and talented teachers in our district. And if you just do the makeup work, you're missing out on those activities that they had planned for you during the day. So you need to be in school whenever you can. Attendance is extremely, extremely important so that you can get all of those good things that our teachers are providing for you.
I think Nate would echo those sentiments. I'm not certain if he was on the same policy committee as Mr. Boland, but 15 years ago he was on one as well, and they spent 13 months debating what a legitimate absence is, and I think kind of came to the conclusion that there is some room for a case-by-case evaluation basis. And so I think Nate's stance on this is that right now Laramie County School District number 1's attendance requirements are generous as they stand. Certainly, again, for unique circumstances, there is room for that case-by-case evaluation, but really a primary concern, I think, really needs to be limiting the interruption in instruction time and ensuring that our students really are getting a fully rather an uninterrupted educational experience, and that requires being in the classroom.
I'm not a hunter, so I mean I can't say that I would love time off to go hunting and stuff. But I will say, looking at the calendar and stuff like that, there is a 4-day weekend for some of our elementary school kids coming up on the 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th of October. So I mean that's plenty of time to take off. I know there's parent-teacher conferences and stuff like that, as well as junior high is off on the 28th with a half day on the 27th. With that being said, I mean if it could be looked into as if hunting season is a priority. We are a military institution. We are fed by the military quite heavily here, and looking at it, we would have to look at cutting Christmas break a little bit, the time after Christmas for instructional time and that kind of stuff, and looking at some of the other holidays that we take, just like Columbus Day when we had kids gone from that. So if they really wanted time off for hunting and that kind of stuff, we'd have to look at the time off that we give them already, which will essentially take away from the time that we have for instructional time, as well as families away from work and other stuff like that. So I really think it needs to be looked into further, and all the other days that we give them off between the first and second quarter.
Comment on dress codes for teachers and students. And for this one, we'll start with Mr. Bolin.
I think teachers need to be dressed in a professional but very comfortable manner. I've had a chance to visit classrooms from elementary all the way through high school the last 4 years, and our teachers are up and about, squatting down and doing all kinds of things to help their students today. So they need to be comfortable, but they also need to be very professional. And as far as our students go, each of our schools has a dress code that works for them, and we kind of have one for the district-wide. Students just need to be allowed the freedom to choose their style of dress, just making sure that that doesn't infringe on anybody else or cause any disruptions to the school day.
We'll go with Sister Morris.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, I think this has been discussed many times by this board, and Nate, he taught for 36 years in Island shirts, if you know Nate, and Levi jeans, and still managed to create a strong classroom atmosphere of respect and educational accomplishment. So certainly as long as the clothing is appropriate and not distractive, it shouldn't be an issue. Now with that said, the primary purpose of school is education, and as such, any type of conduct or behavior that interferes with students' capacity to receive an education, that needs to be scrutinized, and certainly dress code would fall under that. So again, more of a case-by-case basis, but as far as a uniform kind of overlay, no, it shouldn't be a big issue at this point.
I think dress code for teachers and students, especially teachers, could be business casual, especially depending on where they're located and what are they teaching. PE teachers, you want them to be engaged with the students and everything because it makes a more comfortable environment. Like Mr. Moore said, Nate Green was in Hawaiian shirts and stuff like that. My 5th grade teacher used to wear sweatpants and a white t-shirt every day and everything, but whatever makes the kids comfortable to come to your classroom and work and be hand in hand and feel comfortable with that. I'm fully supportive. Admin staff, I feel they should be on a strict business casual to professional manner unless they are, of course, going in and being engaging with the students. There is a dress code. I feel that it's really well written out and everything. I will say that we can't let social media be the dictator of our dress code and everything like that, and have social media be the hype of anything, especially with the current issue of dress code being that topic that happened a few months ago in one of our local schools. I think our students should be able to dress comfortably. They're there all day, especially sports. Some of them have PE right in the morning. I don't expect them to get in dress pants and a dress shirt and a tie and sit through a class slightly sweaty and that kind of stuff all day.
I guess the question, we need to probably define what are we trying to accomplish with the dress code. I can tell you that coming out of USD 259 in Wichita, Kansas, the purpose was to break social groupings, gangs, those types of things, and a more parochial school type atmosphere was created in our public schools where everybody wore khakis and either a white polo or a blue polo. And their scores went up, their violence went down because they broke all of those social ties. I don't know that we're trying to do that. For me personally, administrators are business professional, teachers are business casual. Physical education instructors, like what was said, do need to be active and part of their class, especially at the elementary and junior high levels, because demonstration is very important. So I would expect them to meet and fit in with their classroom. That's basically where I stand on. I'd like to see exactly what's the purpose of looking at it, and then go from there. Thanks.
Dress codes definitely have their place. With teacher dress code, I've been in schools that were very strict, and I've been in schools that were very informal. What mattered more was the rationale that was created for the particular dress code for those teachers. So the rationale created by the principal, rationale working with the teachers to explain why the dress code was whatever the dress code was. What's more important to me about this question, though, is the dress code for students. One of the things that we've seen happen nationally with dress codes for students is the gender discrimination that's happening with the enforcement. So girls tend to be unfairly and disproportionately punished for the clothes that they wear. They're punished differently, they are treated differently, they're shamed, publicly shamed, demeaned, and objectified by some of the dress codes. So as we're looking at student dress codes, to make sure, we still need student dress codes, but as we're looking at those student dress codes, we need to make sure that we are not going to target one specific gender. We need to make sure that both genders are equally held accountable to a specific dress code. We need to make sure that both genders are held accountable in the same way to that dress code. We need to make sure that the wording doesn't objectify and demean half of our student population. If we do that with our dress code, it can be a very positive thing. As you said, it can change the entire complexion of a school. We just need to make sure that we are being fair across the genders as we enforce it.
We have to have standards. We must have standards, because when you don't have standards, then it's just a free-for-all. And so I am very much a proponent that we have to have standards and we have to enforce those. I am concerned, and I have voiced this concern. Sometimes I go into a school and I can't tell anymore which one's the teacher and which one's the student because of the dress. That's because our students are looking a lot older and our teachers sometimes are a lot younger. They're coming out of universities, and sometimes I can't tell the difference. We have to tell the difference. We have to have a level of differences between you are a student, I am the teacher. I do get concerned. I understand the business casual, but sometimes for people there's not strong what is business casual, and I think we need to educate our staff. Building administrators need to educate. This is what business casual is. I understand you need to get on the floor and you need to be with kids, but I don't feel sweatpants is appropriate for a teacher, and that's just my own opinion. I think that we have to have stronger standards for our youth. I think some of our youth dress is very distracting. We got boys with raging hormones out there, guys, and some of the dresses that our young girls are wearing is very distracting. So we need to have standards, and I will always be a proponent. We need to enforce them, we need to have them, and we need to make sure that we're following them.
I would like to, just a little bit of second rebuttal. I would like to say that one of the reasons that we've set up the charter school and allowed the charter school to happen here, the Potier Academy in here, is it offers an alternative. One of the alternatives they offer there is that they require their students to wear uniforms. So our parents in our district do have a choice. It's a free choice. They can attend Potier Academy if they would like them to have uniforms.
Additionally, the comment that was just made is the kind of gender discrimination we need to watch for. It's not that girls have to dress a certain way to stop boys from being distracted. Boys need to stop themselves from being distracted. And we need to hold boys to the same standards we hold girls to. So we can't objectify based on gender.
And if I could just respond to that, are you ready? And I'm not trying to demean girls, but when there is open skin being shown and very, very revealing outfits, I understand we have to have some standards about that.
How important are new or remodeled facilities to Laramie County School District 1, and how can they be built with the decline in the state's traditional source of construction revenue? We'll start with Mr. Morris.
Yeah, thanks, Jackson. The bottom line for this issue is that we need to lobby the legislature and engage the community to lobby the legislature to advocate for our kids and ensure that the basket of goods that's outlined in the Campbell decision is fully considered by the legislature in their decision making. So again, it's really imperative that we have someone who's going to go to bat for this district and ensure that that basket of goods sentiment that no triad or no school is left depleted, or is that there's a balance within the district that's upheld.
So I mean, just as Mr. Morris said, I mean, lobbying our legislature and stuff like that. Laramie County is in a better economic situation than most of the state. We don't rely too much on our energy, and that's why I feel we need to better our relationship with our city and county. But we also need to evaluate where our money is being spent. We do have schools that are rotting away. We have modulars sitting in the back of some of our schools where they're just across the street from a meth house that just got busted about a year and a half ago. The safety is in need. Our schools need to be modernized. Construction is too rushed. I mean, we opened Metal Arc to our 5th grade students, and it's not even 100% done. Same as Davis Elementary, same as Prairie Wind. We need to really evaluate how we're spending our money and where it's going. Like I said, we are in a very unique situation here in Laramie County. We have new businesses coming in with the Walmart distribution coming in, Microsoft adding more jobs. We have Colorado companies coming up with the new laws that happened in Colorado coming up to provide more jobs for us. We have a new Walmart. So our revenue and stuff like that needs to happen with our relationship building between our city and our county. That way we don't have to continuously lobby our legislature as well as sit there and hound our legislators to dip into our energy savings funds.
Jackson, could you repeat the question?
Of course. How important are the new or remodeled facilities to Laramie County School District number 1, and how can they be built with the decline in the state's traditional source of construction revenue?
You know, it's a tough question because our state school facility commission decides, you know, who gets new buildings. Like what was mentioned earlier, it's certainly something that we need to contact our legislators. We need to be able to provide data showing growth in Cheyenne. Not everybody in Wyoming, certainly now with the economic turn, not everybody is showing growth. However, we are, and in fact, we're probably one of the few school districts in the state that are showing growth. So that data needs to go. We need to do a good job. Mr. Dave Bartlett, who is our Director of Operations, needs to continue to do a good job in working with those people to help us stay on top of the list, because it is quite a list. And if we can continue to show data, continue to show need, I don't see why we wouldn't continue to be on top of the list in some of our building plans. Thanks.
It's been fun over the last couple of years, especially since we went back to Cheyenne a few years ago, watching what the board has done to lobby to get new buildings, watching them lobby the legislatures, go to the meetings, and really actively try to get new schools. I think that the current board has done a very nice job with that. I see my role as a potential new board member as continuing that conversation, continuing what they're doing. We need to continue to lobby, as has been stated. We don't make the initial decision, we just lobby and we try to persuade, and I think we can continue to be very persuasive. Some of our buildings are quite old, so we need to continue to be persuasive and continue to get buildings. I do think we need to make sure that buildings are designed so they can expand and where the construction can be added to it and where they don't open at capacity. If a school opens at capacity from the day it opens, then we didn't do a great job of designing it. So we do need to watch our designs a little bit, but this board has done a very good job, and we need to continue that lobbying effort, working very hard to get the legislature to understand that we need newer buildings in some of these places. Our students deserve newer buildings.
Well, I take a little bit of a different take on this. I'm not set on us just saying, well, I'm going to go to the legislature and I'm going to say, find me money. I don't think that's responsible with our resources that we have here. I think we, as a district, need to look at what we can do here and now. If you realize if they give us money to build a new school, it's going to take 4 years to get that school built. That's a long time that kids are waiting for a school to be built. Some of those kids won't even be in that school anymore after that school is built. I found it out Saddle Ridge, we had 125 kids bust out of that school. We need to find solutions today for that. So what does that mean? We need to look at remodeling, adding on, building some add-ons to some of these schools to make them bigger to support capacity. I know it's not really popular, but I think that modulars do serve a purpose. We need to make them safe, and we have some real good plans right now about building fences around our schools, incorporating those into our schools, but they do serve a purpose because they keep kids in their neighborhood school. So we got to start looking outside the box, because I just don't think it's about an 8-year cycle is what they're saying with the state. I don't think we can say for 8 years, well, give us more money, we'll give us more money, we'll give us more money. We got to do something here in the district.
I don't think it's any secret that our district has probably got the biggest need of all the districts in the state. I think in the top 20 projects, we have like 10 of those, and those are for the ones for condition. And then capacity, of course, as was mentioned earlier, we're one of the few districts in the state that's actually growing. That was good for us, for our budget this year, but we don't have places to put all those students. So what we need to do is continue to put pressure on the School Facilities Commission. And we've done that through attending meetings and some other legal ways of doing it also. You don't like the legal ways of doing it, so if we can get it through lobbying, it's much better in attending meetings. We have to participate as board members in the least cost remedy study so we can make sure we get the best solution for our district when we do have money given to us. As far as finding the money, right now the co-lease bonus money is dried up. And that we got about the last 80 million of that this year is being allotted. So the legislature needs to be reminded that constitutionally they have to provide for building those schools. They've told us we can't do it on our own right now, even though we do have some bonding capacity. We could take care of a couple of things with that way, but they're telling us we shouldn't be doing that. Even if we did that, we still have to get permission for them to do that. So we have to make sure we remind them that they have a responsibility to find some other place, there's some other source of funding. And of course, one of the things that's been brought up later is a statewide additional 6 mills, which we used to have in the state, and that could help fund the school construction.
I would also like to mention that I'm a supporter of neighborhood schools. The modulars are not popular, but they are what we need to keep our especially our elementary students, elementary kids in their neighborhoods.
I'll just say that I know the modulars do serve a purpose and everything, and I also want to address some of the questions that come to me is some of our schools, they can't be added on to, but if you go to more than 60% of our schools, they can be added on to. I just want to address that question that comes around.
All right, so in conclusion, you will have 2 minutes to close. You can use this time to either summarize or present some new information. So let's see, Mr. Carjanis.
Awesome. I just want to first by saying thank you. Thank you for everybody that's coming. Thank you for the East High for filming this. Of course, our students. Of course, Mr. Davidson had to leave to attend his concert and everything. But thank you guys for working hard and getting these questions. I just want to say I am really working at becoming a board of trustee. That way I could be the voice for our students, our faculty, our admin, and everything. I do feel that we need to fix our communication gaps between all departments, whether it be in the admin building or down to our schools. all three triads do need to work together, and it's up to our board members to help assist in making sure that our triads are working together, as well as continually trying to work with our city and county officials, making sure that we have that community support, as well as trying to work at providing more after-school programs, as well as creating a safe environment for our kids, working with the fire, police, ambulance, as well as county officials, city officials, the mayor's office, and really just making sure that this community is behind our school district and making sure that the transparency is there, as not only for our students, but making sure that our educators are being well taken care of, not just raises, but making sure that they're being noticed on all levels, whether it be in school, district-wide, statewide, that kind of stuff, as well as the Board of Trustees making a presence and inviting students to their committee meetings, and maybe even having different committees where students are involved and everything on board, and as well as community partners, as well as citizens in the city of Cheyenne, as well as the rural communities. I spent some time talking to rural families, and they said that they don't get touched, they don't get talked to on a normal basis. So I really want to bring together, because we do have Gilchrist that's way out there that seems to be left in the dust, but I really want our district to be unison and really cohesive. I think we have the potential to be the greatest district in our region, and it just takes all of us as one.
Yes, thank you. Again, I would like to thank everybody for coming tonight and giving us a chance to show you a little bit of what we believe. I will tell you this, that I certainly believe that academic success is based on a student's efforts and their attitude. And I don't know that we spend a lot of time on that. The buildings that I have been in, the one constant thing that I hear from administrators and faculty is the classroom environment and the disruption of the classroom and the educational process because of the environment of the classroom. And I think that's something that we need to probably look at and focus on. We talk about increasing graduation rates. We have a new grading scale that's come out, if you read the paper today. These are all things that are put in place to help those who are succeeding to become more successful. I am sincere when I talk about the 22%. Right now our graduation rate is at 78. I would like to look at the 22. What are we doing to ensure the 22 are graduating and graduating on time? What are some of the things that we can do to help that classroom environment so it's not a disruptive environment? There are some things that I have. I think that I have a plan. I have visited with some other superintendents outside of our state who have plans to help this, to help increase a positive educational environment. And my goal is to help do that if I'm elected here. Thank you again for your time, and I hope for your vote in November. Thank you.
Thank you all for attending, and for you, actually 4 of you, you guys did a great job representing your schools and your district, so thank you very much. My career as an educator took me out of Wyoming pretty early, but because I went to Colorado to teach, I was able to teach in the downtown Denver. I was able to teach at 99% Hispanic school. It took me up to a mountain rural school. It took me to a plains rural school. It ended up in Greeley, teaching in that district, a very large town, again, very large Hispanic population, large ELL population. And then fortunately brought me back home to Cheyenne, where I started and where I love being. In those travels, I've been able to really get a better understanding of meeting students at their needs. As I've experienced more and more students with different strengths, with different passions, with different abilities and different funds of knowledge than mine, I've had to learn how to bring those into the classroom. I've had to learn how to work with them in the classroom. I've had to learn how to provide the education that they need in the classroom. And those are the things that I want to make sure that we continue doing here. I do believe in this district. I think it's a great district. It provided me the education I needed to get to where I am now. And for that I am forever grateful. And I'm hoping to serve back on the board for that purpose, to give back to the district. As a teacher educator now, I've had my student teachers come to Cheyenne. So my English student teachers and now my elementary student teachers are working here in Cheyenne, working with some of the great English and elementary teachers in this town. And it's wonderful to see them pass down that knowledge from one generation to another. In fact, one of my student teachers was one of my former mentors at Central. So it's wonderful to see what is happening here. And I'm hoping to continue to be a part of it as a teacher educator, but definitely as a Board of Trustees member, to see the wonderful things that are happening, to make sure that every student in the district gets the high quality education that he or she deserves.
Well, I can promise you that if you re-elect me to this board, every decision I make, I will first ask myself, how does this affect our students? The kids are my biggest priority. These are why we're here. We're here to educate 13,000 students in Laramie County. I truly feel that I, as a trustee, are your voice. You elect me to come in to do this great job, but I want to be your voice because it takes all of us coming together as a community to say this is what we want for our kids. It's just not my voice up here or the other voices of the other board members. It's your voice. It's your voice that we want to hear, and it's your voice that we want to know what you want for our students. We need a diversified board. I come from a businesswoman perspective. I don't come from a background in education. There's about 4 of us that are on this board right now that come from education. There's about 3 of us that come from an outside perspective. We need a diversified board. I bring things to the table and ways of looking at things that maybe people didn't think of. Because sometimes when you're in something, you kind of develop that group think. So I do think it's important that we have diversity on our board and some outside perspectives. I promise you too that I want to make sure that we are increasing our graduation rates and our kids, getting our kids ready for career and college. We have to identify those students, like you talked about the small percentage that are failing. Not the successes. We need to engage them early. We need to advocate for all of the programs that we do have, the great programs that we do have that can help them. And we got to help our students be career ready, and that's a lot of things, military, technical schools, college ready. We need to help them be ready for that as well. Thank you.
I'd like to start by saying I'd like to remind everyone that serving on the school board involves much more than attending just the 2 regular monthly board meetings. School board members must be willing to invest the time to get to know the schools, and that means the students and the staff and the support staff in the entire district, and be willing to serve on district committees. And on those committees, we're there to make sure that we listen to the things that come up the committees, participate in those committees, and then provide reports back to the entire board about what happened at those committees. I've enjoyed spending many hours doing each of these things during my first term. I'd like to also make sure that we continue to emphasize the graduation rate. I think one of the things we can do to improve our graduation rate is to make sure that all of our students are ready for high school when they get there. And one of the things I've been concerned about and tried to get changed during my first term was to make sure that we don't do the averaging of the grades in junior high school, because I think that leaves those kids with things that they're lacking before they go into high school, and kind of sets them up to have troubles when they're in high school. So we need to make sure they're ready when they get there so that they can graduate on time in the 4 years, so we can count that in there. One of the things that a couple of our board members talked about during our time on the board was to increase the amount of people to see our board meetings by televising our board meetings. And I know a lot of our parents are very busy with their kids, but they could watch the board meeting at home on a TV, and I know LCCC does that with their board meetings, and I would like to see us try to pursue doing that here. Also, everyone in our district needs to be involved in developing themselves and becoming better. And that includes all of us on the board also. So I have committed myself in my 4 years, and I'm committed the next 4 years to making sure that I go to both state and national school board development activities. Also, we need to make sure that in our district we're working as a team. And in our schools, that means we have all of our staff, pretty much every staff member is involved in some kind of a PLC, and they work together as a team to improve, where they're working with each other's strengths and sharing those to be able to do a better job for all of our students.
Thanks again to our student participants, first and foremost. As someone who's not too far removed from you all, it's exciting to see you guys engage with this, and I think Nate would agree with that. I'm in an interesting position speaking on his behalf here. But I do think that he really wanted me to emphasize again, it's crucial to have a balance between a trustee and a delegate in this position. As someone who's going to go advocate for all schools in our district, once again, the Wyoming State Constitution and the Wyoming State Supreme Court make it very clear that the legislature must fully fund education in this state. And so the first step is really to work with the legislature and begin transparent conversations where we effectively communicate the key areas of funding need. And then we encourage the legislature to go out and find the necessary funds. Again, that's a constitutional obligation. And furthermore, I think Mr. Breen wanted me to emphasize it's about engaging beyond that. It's engaging the community as well. He's gone out and spoken to both mayoral candidates about the capacity of how we can continue to keep our kids in this community engaged, because that really has a crucial bearing on graduation rate and engaged community on the whole. And certainly on my behalf, I don't mean to pinch hit for Nate tonight. I know he has this commitment with the State Board of Education, but he did ask me to come speak tonight, and as a former student, I was beyond happy to do that, because time and time again, I saw him go out of his way to give back to students and really encourage them and ensure that they were on the right path. And so I think that's it exemplifies the commitment that he brings to a position like this as well.
The League would like to thank you all for participating tonight. It's been a fascinating discussion, and we'd also like to thank our student participants. They've done a terrific job. For those of you who would like to know, let's take a For those of you who would like to know more of what our candidates believe or what issues they think are important, you can check on the League of Women Voters website in the next week or so. Our candidates will have an opportunity to answer questions then that the League has posed for them, and they'll do that in writing. So once again, thanks to everyone. It's been a great evening.